This is the only Noli guide you will ever need. In this video, I'll show you Noli stats and abilities, how to use them correctly, how you can counter certain survivors, and how you can counter Noli as a survivor. Basically, everything from basic to advanced. So let's get straight into it. Noli is a character that you can buy in the shop for 1100 player points. He has 1111 HP, 7.5 regular speed, 27.5 sprinting speed, and 110 stamina. Those stats are pretty average and very similar to Cool Kid's stats. He has two passives. His first passive is his hallucination status effect. Just like 1x or Jason can apply bleed or poison, similarly Noli can apply hallucination with certain attacks, and it can stack up to hallucination 3. Now some of those hallucination effects can be pretty wild to say the least. Hallucination 1 reveals where the survivor is with a purple aura. It can also mess up the timer and the info on objectives. At hallucination 2, fake pizzas and dispensers can spawn around the map. That make no harm, but they give you fake HP. That disappears once the hallucination effect is gone, as well as a fake Duscar shield. But once you get to hallucination 3, it will trigger a fake Noli spawn. This fake Noli will chase you just like the real one and deal damage to you, except this damage is fake, and it's gone once the fake Noli gets you to 0 HP or you stun him. This fake Noli is only visible to the survivor under this effect, not Noli himself. His second passive is Prankster. At the start of each round, fake generators will spawn. Completing those fake generators will punish you with hallucination. If you manage to complete the whole generator without noticing it's fake, you'll get hallucination 3. There's a few ways to distinguish fake ones from real ones. For example, the color of the dots you have to connect, or the generator itself with a Noli's face on it, or even the currency you get, which is obviously fake. Once this fake generator is completed, by the way, it will reset back to 0 and can be completed again. Okay, but now onto Noli's abilities. His main ability, the M1 ability, is a stab. This stab deals 25 damage and has a 0.4 second windup, by far the slowest main attack out of all the killers. His second ability is called Void Rush. Once you charge up the ability by holding down the button and not letting go, it will allow you to traverse the map at supersonic speeds. Hitting a wall or a big object when dashing at this speed will completely stop you and slow you down, kinda similar to Cool Kid's walk speed override. Hitting a survivor for the first time with this ability will only deal 10 damage, but it will inflict hallucination 2 for 20 seconds. When you hit a survivor who has hallucination 2 with Void Rush, it will deal 10 damage but also will activate the slam, dealing way more damage. When hitting a survivor with Void Rush, it doesn't stop your ability. Instead, you can re-rush shortly after at the same target, or you can bounce between survivors because your Void Rush only stops when you crash into a wall, get stunned, or hit a survivor who has hallucination 2 status effect. During this Void Rush, stamina doesn't regenerate for Noli, and also changing your direction when using Void Rush is very slow. It's only increased heavily during the first second of using the ability. His third ability is called Nova. This allows him to throw his Void Star with a 0.8 second windup, and is kinda similar to Cool Kid's corrupt nature. Except the Void Star can explode. If the Void Star hits a wall or a survivor, it will explode with a big radius, dealing 15 damage and pulling survivors towards the blast. If the Void Star hits the ground, it will still explode, but with a way smaller radius. You can also try to manually detonate the Void Star yourself, but the hitbox will be much smaller, just like hitting it on the ground. His fourth and last ability, Observant. With this ability, Noli can teleport to any generator around the map. When using the ability, it will have a short windup, and when Noli teleports to a specific generator, it will have a short warning before he appears. This ability can inflict hallucination. The further away the survivor is from a generator, the bigger the hallucination stack. At 20 stats, it's hallucination 1, at 50 stats it's hallucination 2, and at 100 stats or more it will inflict hallucination 3. By the way, when the game starts, Noli has a cooldown on the observant ability, so it will prevent unhealthy gameplay or make him too overpowered. And also, whenever Noli teleports with this ability, he has spawn immunity, meaning you can't stun him. By the way, the darker of the color purple the survivor's aura is, the more hallucination stack it is. So for example, if it's like very light purple, it's hallucination 1, but if it's very dark purple, it's hallucination 3. That was pretty much every single important detail about every single ability. Now you kind of have an image of what kind of killer Noli is, but now let's go over how to use every single ability correctly or effectively. But hey, real quick before we do, if this is helping you so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel as it supports me to make more helpful guides like this. Anyways, back to the video. Now, as for Noli's stab, there isn't really much to say, you just need good aim. One tip I can give, which is very important, is that you need to be more careful against guest players or sentinels in general. Noli's stab has a pretty pretty long hitbox, but in exchange its windup is pretty damn long, making it easier for someone like Guess to parry the incoming attack. So you would always want to block bait them. Okay, but his Void Rush ability is the most complicated ability, so how do you use that? Well, there's a few ways to use it. You could use it to catch up with the survivor as a speed boost, but if you don't hit the survivor, you'll waste the ability since you don't really regenerate any stamina during the ability and you're slowed down if you miss the ability. You could, but instead always make sure to guarantee a hit. Preferably you want the survivor to be as close to you as possible when using this ability, because during the first second of using the ability you can change your direction with ease, and after that it's hard to redirect the path you're going, making it easier for survivors to dodge from a distance, or if they get behind a wall or something. Again, you can rebound between multiple survivors with this ability, just don't get too cocky and actually land your slam at the end. And one tip, you can also block bait guest players with the Void Rush ability by cancelling it out at the last second, tricking them into thinking it would be an easy block. Also, you can combine both abilities Observant and Void Rush. First teleport to any generator giving hallucination 2 or more to survivors, and then dash into them with Void Rush, which will immediately activate the slam, dealing a ton of damage. If you use the Void Rush ability and you want to re-rush but you're at an angle where you can't turn enough to hit them, there's a bit of time where you can walk before you can't re-rush anymore. And also, using common sense, you can cut off survivors or surprise them by teleporting to any generator close to them, but you are very vulnerable when using Observant near a survivor since you can get stunned very easily. Make sure there's no sentinels nearby. Also, use Nova, but don't spam it. It makes you pretty slow and has a huge windup and can be dodged fairly easy. And avoid trying to manually detonate it because the hitbox will be very small, like too small to hit anything. Only use it if you actually know you'll hit somebody with it, and always try to aim at a wall or an object for the big explosion radius. And because Nova can pull survivors, you can get them off high ground or closer to you. Observant is also super good to decline progress the survivors are doing. This way you can scare them off and make it harder for them to complete the objectives. Now, there are some certain survivors that are a huge counter to Noli, so keep an eye out for them. One of them is Guess, that you probably know by now, since he can easily parry the stab because of the long windup, and also parry the Void Rush because of the windup and because it's so hard to redirect the direction you're going when using Void Rush. What you want to do is block bait them until they miss their block, and then you can violate them as much as you like with your abilities. But another huge counter, maybe even a bigger threat, is Taff and Build-A-Man. They both can place traps and completely stop your Void Rush. Just one tripwire from Taff can completely negate your Void Rush ability, just like Build-A-Man Sentry or Dispenser, or the Subspace Trip Mine from Taff, of course. But because Taff's traps are one shot, they can be countered pretty easily, if you see them, of course. You better look out for these survivors as they are high priority targets that can counter you and cause some huge trouble for you. That was pretty much everything there was to say about Noli. He's a quick and agile killer that can travel at high speeds and teleport around the map. If you know how to play him, he can definitely be scary somewhat and surprise survivors out of nowhere and trick them with hallucination. If there's something crucial that I missed or you got any questions left, let me know in the comments. I will try to answer them. Like and subscribe, and yeah, have a great day.